Welcome to Tyrion Cuthbert, Attorney of the Arcane. For those unaware, this is a game that hit Steam a couple weeks ago as of this video going up. I just wanted to try the first case, see how it compares, because it's inevitable to make the comparison that it's inspired by Phoenix Wright. It's just, I enjoyed the first three Phoenix Wright games, and I just felt like they've gone quite a bit downhill. I don't know if that's a sentiment I share. We're going to see if anything good comes out of the indie scene, and apparently this was kickstarted or backed on Indiegogo, one of the two. I don't really know. But yeah, I plan to go back and do some of the stuff that I haven't gotten back to just yet, but I just want to do the first case here, and we actually get case select. So there's a total of 5. I don't know if we're able to just jump into one of those, but we're going to start at the very beginning. The Coldhearted Aristocrat. The fields of battle are filled with suffering and despair. On them are a clash of souls, souls brought to conflict by the corrupt powers that rule over them. I was transporting a client in my carriage that evening. We were driving by the McCoy Tavern when we heard a disturbance. I was worried that something was amiss, so I walked into the building to see what the commotion was. There I saw the defendant. She was lit by the blue glow of the dining room lights, and she was stabbing the victim with her magical sword.
Objection!
Mr. Rudolph, you testified that you saw my client murdering the victim, and you supposedly saw her casting magic while doing so? Yes, I could never forget such a grisly sight. That moment was burned into my memory. I see. Well, it's funny that you say that. How so? Because your entire testimony was a complete lie. What?
Objection!
Are you accusing the witness of perjury? Surely you know that such accusations can't be made lightly, Mr. Cuthbert. My accusation is far from baseless, Steelman. Think about the state of the crime scene at the time of the murder. The witness couldn't have seen anything, much less a homicide. He knows something. But on this battlefield, there are still a few people who carry the ideals of justice within their hearts. But you have to wonder sometimes, are these ideals truly just? Or are they simply lies fed to us by our elders? Damn it. Damn it. Flintheart, you fool! Why could you just listen to me? Rudolph, I require your assistance. Yes, sir? By the scaled lord, what did you... You killed him! Alert the town guard. Tell them that you saw his daughter fleeing the scene. I'm sure their neighbors heard them arguing with each other. They'll immediately suspect her. At once, sir. Episode 1, The Coldhearted Aristocrat. Earlier that day, you feel yourself slowly succumbing to an unbearable pain. You don't think you'll be able to survive this much longer. Are you sure you're okay, Cuthbert? You look like you're about to pass out. Ruby Timora. Don't worry about me, Miss Tamara. I'm fine. You've been riding in this carriage for days. You are definitely not fine. With each bump in the road, you feel yourself becoming more and more nauseous. It's taking every ounce of willpower just to hold down your lunch. I'm perfectly fine, if you say so. You feel the carriage drive over a large bump in the road. You can feel and hear your stomach retching in protest. That stew you ate for lunch doesn't taste nearly as good the second time. On second thought... That's better. You take a deep breath of fresh air. It's the first breath you've taken today that hasn't threatened to come back out. Sorry about this. I didn't expect the roads in this town to be this uneven. I suppose they don't get a lot of traffic here. You've been on the road with your mentor for days. Together, you've been searching for a man named Flintheart McCoy. Supposedly, He's been a voice of dissidence against King Olivier for the last few decades. You have no idea what kind of business Miss Tamora would have with him. But you know better than to ask questions about her affairs. Hello, travelers. Welcome to Courthaven. A local merchant steps out from one of the nearby shops. He has a wide smile on his face, and he approaches your carriage with the enthusiasm of a starving vulture. Would a pair of dignified individuals such as yourselves care for a refreshing drink? Those clothes, they must be from the city. He certainly has a friendly expression, but his thoughts seem very analytical. Well, I don't need a drink, but... Miss Tamora glances at you and your stomach rumbles in agreement. Of course, I'd have just the thing for an upset stomach. With a carriage like that, I bet I could fleece them for a lot. His thoughts and emotions are laid bare through your eye of Horus. But the merchant's expression doesn't betray a hint of what he's truly thinking. You wonder if his false smile could get any bigger. At this rate, he might dislocate his jaw. How about 2 flasks of apple juice for 50 silver pieces? 50 silver pieces? You may find the price daunting, but this is organic, freshly made apple juice. It's just store-bought juice, but I bet they couldn't even tell the difference. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot an empty bottle of store-bought apple juice. It's resting on a table inside the merchant's shop. So we now have store-bought apple juice added to our notes. The Courthaven merchant has a bottle of store-bought apple juice. It's resting on a table inside his shop. It's suspiciously empty. So Tyrion will make mental notes of notable clues. That's bad wording. He sees in the world. These notes are instrumental by solving mysteries and progressing through the game. You can check these notes at any time by opening the toolbar in the top left of the screen. So yeah, I would choose a different word so you don't have the repeated sound, but maybe that's just me. Some stuff like that just drives me a little bit crazy. Trust me, it's worth the extra gold. It's not gold, you asked for silver. Get your story straight, man. Normally, the prize wouldn't matter that much to you, but you don't appreciate being treated like an easy mark. You start an argument with another character. During an argument, your opponent will make claims they need to respond to. Responding correctly will lower your opponent's confidence. Responding incorrectly will lower your confidence. And once you run out of confidence, you lose the argument. I think you need to elaborate. You said that this apple juice is organic, but where is it made? It's produced by the hardworking people of this town, of course. I only trade organic products. In a small town like ours, we only deal with locally sourced products. Presenting during arguments. For certain claims, you'll need to present a piece of evidence to refute the claim. To proceed, present the piece of evidence that contradicts your opponent's claim. You say that, but I can see an empty bottle of store-bought juice inside your shop. Why would you have something like that if you only deal with organic products? Oh, how did that get there? Make no mistake. I only have that because I wanted to see how my products compare to that of the city. And let me tell you, that mass-produced slop doesn't even compare to my product. What an obvious lie. This juice is worth far more than what I'm offering. Honestly, I'm offering you a very good deal. So, interpreting during arguments. For certain claims, you'll need to look at your opponent's thoughts and emotions. Choose the correct response depending on the information seen. So, logic, choose this if your opponent's thought contradicts something in your notes. Intuition, if your opponent's thought contradicts their claim. And empathy, if the opponent's emotions contradict the claim. So, we'll go with intuition here. Sir, it's obvious those flasks are only worth 5 silver pieces. What? How did you... Well, it's clear you're a very shrewd man. Right. So now do we get to rough him up? I'm so thirsty. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot a child watching you from afar. Her eyes are fixed on the flasks of apple juice. How about 20 silver 3 pieces for 3 flasks? Of course, sir. The Kingdom of Wyverngard. Established around 2,000 years ago by the 7 High Archmages. Archmages, I think it's supposed to be. The kingdom is currently ruled by Olivier de Wyvangard. Huh. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to try to do this with a French accent, so King Olivier de Wyvangard, and the mages of his nobility. The nobility will tell you that our marvelous kingdom is a land of prosperity and happiness. A land where its people share the wealth and succor provided by the kingdom's magic. Thank you. I haven't had anything like this in years. The child's passing thoughts tell you exactly how much succor the kingdom is sharing. I didn't know you had such an eye for rural economics. Well, I suppose I just have a good intuition for this sort of thing. Or did you use another kind of eye? Don't get me wrong, your so-called Eye of Horus is an amazing gift. You should take every opportunity to hone it. But try to be more subtle next time. If I can see through you, others will be able to as well. Right. Anyways, I did some asking around while you were haggling. Okay, I went ahead and closed the door so you don't hear the engines rev by. Supposedly, the McCoy Tavern should be north of here. If my tip is correct, this should be the place. Wait, this is the McCoy Tavern? With the state it's in, calling it a tavern is being pretty generous. You find it hard to believe that this has a secret meeting place for dissidents. But now that you think about it, maybe that's the entire point. The tavern's been shut down for years. Nowadays, McCoy just uses it to host his rallies. Although, I do wonder how they've been keeping themselves afloat. Hey, you lot! The McCoy Tavern is closed. A gruff man approaches your carriage as you step out of it. He's eyeing you and Miss Tamora, a clear look of contempt on his face. I take it you're Flintheart McCoy. I am. What of it? Occupation unemployed. So he's a deadbeat. Sorry for not writing ahead of time, but I'm Ruby Tymora. I wanted to speak with you. Ruby Tymora? Wait, the Ruby Tymora? Any animosity he initially had immediately vanishes. He lets out a laugh, as if he were meeting an old friend. Why didn't you say so? Come on in! You didn't expect someone like him to know about Miss Tymora. But you suppose it makes sense, they both fight against the same enemy, albeit in different ways. Sorry about the mess, we haven't exactly been... Well, anyways, what brings you here? I take you didn't journey all this way to see my wrecked tavern. I'm here on behalf of a client. We have a proposition that you might be interested in. Is there anywhere where we could talk more privately? Sure, the kitchen's empty. Wonderful. Tyrion, stay here while I speak with McCoy. What? Don't you need my help? There is no need for that. Like hell there's no need for that. If she's trying to make a deal with Flintheart, you can easily read his thoughts to figure out what he wants. You desperately want to object, but she shoots you a stern look that makes you freeze up. You slowly look away from her. You spend quite an amount of time waiting in the dining area of the tavern. It's already been hours since Miss Tymora and Flintheart went in to talk in the kitchen. You can hear faint murmurs from behind the closed door, and you've been resisting the urge to eavesdrop. But even from here, you can tell that their conversation is slowly becoming more frustrated. Looks like they're going to be a while. Well, it's a good thing you always bring a chess set around. You bring out the small chessboard that you've carried around since you were a child. Chess can be played with one person, and you've always taken advantage of that. Checkmate. You win against yourself, this time as black. I've played 10 games already, and I've won 7 out of 10 times as black. Hello? Statistically, white is more likely to win. That is the line that got the one guy in YouTube on trouble. I can't... A godmeter or something like that? Except he phrased it a little differently. Unbeknownst to you, you're thinking out loud. So why am I performing so much better when playing as black? Hello? You still don't notice her, and you're verbalizing your thoughts just as fast as you're thinking them. Am I becoming overconfident as white because it has a first move advantage? Or perhaps that very advantage is affecting my choices and making me play in a suboptimal manner. If a personal quirk is making me play illogically, then I need to correct it. Hey. What? How long have you been standing there? It's about time you noticed me. I've been trying to talk to you for a while now. Oh, sorry. Do you know where my dad is? Your dad? Flintheart McCoy. I'm his daughter, Celeste. She's a mercenary. Oh, Flintheart is speaking with my mentor right now. Aw, I wanted to show him something. Do you know when they'll be done? I don't know. They've been speaking in the kitchen for a while now. You hear Flintheart and Miss Tamura's voices getting louder and more frustrated, but Celeste doesn't seem to notice. Her eyes seem to be focused on your chessboard. This is chess, right? Are you playing against someone? Oh, I'm playing against myself, actually. Oh, that's... You feel a judgmental stare. Playing alone helps me develop new strategies. Plenty of professionals do it. Hey, I'm not the type to shame a man for playing with himself. That's... Relax, I'm just joking. Anyways, if you're still waiting for your mentor, do you want to play a game? Oh, you know how to play? Sure, I've read about this before. She's read about it. This table is so dusty. Celeste takes a seat on the other side of the table. She tries to set up her side of the board, but fumbles with the pieces. She stares at one of them, confused. How do I arrange these things again? I don't know, just do a random thing is what I always do. A part of you regrets accepting her challenge, but it would be impolite to back out now. Here, I'll arrange them for you. Thanks. Checkmate. You defeat her in 2 moves. So keep in mind the 2-move mate is something that you can only do it as black for one. And it's one of those things where they have to intentionally kind of allow you to do it. You have to move the kingside bishop and knight pawns out, and then black has to move the kingside pawn forward to allow the queen to go all the way to the end. Wait, what? Already? How did you do that? You decide against telling her what the name of that mate was. Rematch me. I want a do-over. Sure, why not? So usually that's referred to as the Fool's Mate, I believe. Although some people call the 4-move one that as well, when that's sometimes called Scholars. It's not as if you have anything better to do. Celeste's brow furrows as she tries to decide on her next move. But she hasn't realized that the game is already finished. Here. She moves her knight into a position to attack your queen. It should have stopped your assault on her king, but... Checkmate. No Scholar's Mate this time. Okay, so I spoiled that one for you guys. What? Come on, how do you keep doing that? You look at the closed door to the kitchen. Flintheart and Miss Tamura's discussion is becoming louder. It doesn't sound like they'll be done anytime soon. Again, I'll definitely beat you this time. For someone who had clearly never played before, she's quickly improving with each game. It's impressive. She's observing your strategies and adapting them to her playstyle. With the way she's playing now, she could even defeat a nationally ranked noble. Checkmate. But even so, you've been playing this game for a lot longer than she has. How are you always one step ahead of me? It's like you're reading my mind. As if you'd even need me to. Just one more game. I'll get you this time. Hello, Cuthbert. Miss Tamura emerges from the kitchen with Flintheart. They both look mentally exhausted. Looks like negotiations didn't go well. Hi, Dad. Oh, hello, sweetie. Flintheart looks irritated, but as soon as he sees Celeste, he quickly hides it behind a smile. You wonder what the discussion was about. What's this? Some kind of game? Miss Tamura glances at pieces on the board. Don't feel too bad about losing to him. He's nationally ranked. Oh, you're a professional. Is that why you're wearing a suit? No, chess is just a hobby. I'm actually a defense attorney. An attorney? Speaking of which, we should probably be on our way. Sorry for refusing you after you came all this way. I really respect what you're doing. But I don't want anything to do with your mage friends. You wonder what he meant by that. Was Miss Tamura trying to introduce him into one of our clients? Anyways, it is getting late. If you leave now, you won't get back to the city until morning. She's right. This region is littered with bandits and brigands. You wouldn't want to run into them this late. I guess you have a point. We have plenty of empty rooms that you can stay in until morning. It's the least I can do after you came all this way. Well, if it's not too much trouble, we might as well stay here until tomorrow. The tavern is shut down, but we still have some sheets and blankets. I'll go get the rooms ready. Celeste and Flintheart leave the dining area to get your rooms ready. You're left in the dining room with Miss Timora. So, I take it negotiations didn't go well. No, I didn't expect him to be so stubborn. Honestly, I have no idea what that man has against mages. Well, there is one way to find out. Why are you being so secretive? If your business with Flintheart is related to our clients, I can help. It wasn't important, and your presence was not necessary. That's such an obvious lie, but you can't read a single thought from her mind. She's had years of practice hiding her thoughts from the Eye of Horus. Celeste enthusiastically came back downstairs. But she seems to have noticed the tension between you and Miss Timora. Sorry to interrupt, but your rooms are ready now. Right. Thank you. An awkward silence hangs in the air as you and Miss Timora head upstairs. You reach the upper hallway and see the two rooms that Celeste prepared for you. Miss Timora stops before entering her room. So, a little bit of an art oversight. If there's only two rooms, I don't think they'd have all these candles burning. Just be like the closest two, and then that's all you need. You were playing chess with Flintheart's daughter earlier. Was she any good? Not at first, but she got a lot better as we kept playing. I'm sorry for leaving you there for so long. I didn't expect our discussion to last that long. No, it's fine. Despite everything, I enjoyed playing against her. I see. Well, I suppose you are at that age. No, it's not like that. It's just that outside of tournaments, I never really get to play against another player. And you only ever want to play shogi against me. Because shogi is clearly superior. It's complete anarchy is what it is. You just bring fallen pieces back to life like some kind of necromancer. It adds depth. Dropping adds a dimension of play that isn't present in chess. You sternly look at each other. Your position's already made. After a few moments of silence, you both burst out laughing. I'm sorry if it looks like I don't trust you. I know you're just trying to help. But there are some things about my work that I just can't tell you about yet. But one day, I'll tell you everything. Right. I'm sorry for prying. I just want to show you I'm ready to be an attorney. You are. I know you are. The rare praise from your mentor catches you off guard. Anyways, get some rest. You should mentally prepare yourself for the journey tomorrow. Right. You completely forgot about the carriage ride back. You can already feel your stomach churning in protest. You lay in the bed that the McCoy has prepared for you, and as you close your eyes, you slowly drift into a deep slumber. As this happens, you feel something invasive. Your mind drifts away, and you feel yourself being pulled elsewhere. You find yourself in a surreal and unsettling landscape. You're fairly certain that you're dreaming right now, but some instinct in the back of your mind tells you that something is fundamentally wrong about this. You see a woman in the far distance. She's staring directly at you. What presence? She's murmuring something, but you can't quite make it out. Is she trying to say something to you? Finally found. I finally found you, Heavensborn! You're jolted wide awake. You can't exactly remember what that woman said to you. But whatever her words were, they sent a piercing chill down your spine. Your breath is heavy, and your heart is beating at 100 miles per hour. Calm down, it was just a dream. At least, that's what you try to tell yourself. Please, just let me explain. I don't want to hear it. You hear the voices of Celeste and Flintheart ring out from downstairs. It must be extremely late. What could they possibly be arguing about at this hour? I want you out of my house! Out! A dead silence lingers in the air before you hear someone rush out of the tavern. Whoever left slams the door behind them. What was that all about? It's none of your business. You only met those two today. it would probably be best not to get involved in their affairs. And as you tell yourself that, a brief image of Celeste's smile appears in your mind. Damn it. You slowly make your way out of your room. But the hallway is nearly pitch black. You can barely see a few inches ahead of you. You have to watch your step to avoid tripping. You run into Flintheart, who is slowly walking up the stairs. Even this close, it's hard to see his expression in the darkness. Sorry, I just heard... I forgot you two were... His words trail off. Is everything okay? Sorry, I'm just going to... You awkwardly shimmy past Flintheart to head down the stairs. He doesn't move out of your way. It's clear his mind is elsewhere. You arrive at the dining room, but you don't see Celeste anywhere. Honestly, though, it's hard to tell with how dark the room is. Celeste, are you still here? You don't receive an answer. You remember hearing someone slam the front door earlier. Your eyes are drawn to the tavern entrance. Celeste? No answer. Celeste, where are you? The merchant you spoke with before steps out from his shop holding a lantern. He appears to be irritated by all the noise you've been making. Oh, you're the kid from before. Do you have any idea what time it is? This isn't the city. You can't just make a bunch of noise like this. Right, sorry. I was just looking for Celeste. Who? Celeste McCoy. She's Flintheart's daughter. The merchant's expression becomes a little colder. Do you know them? What do you want with that bastard? Damn mage. What? Those two probably woke up half the street with all their yelling. I don't need you keeping us up too. If I hear any more noise, I'm gonna call the town guard. Before you can get a word in, the merchant walks back into his home in a huff. You look around, but you still don't see any sign of Celeste. You decide to continue searching. I can't believe I said those things to her. She'll never forgive me for this. I see your temper as short as ever, Flintheart. You? Honestly, how do you live in this darkness? Looks so. What are you doing here? And how dare you bring that witchcraft into my home? You've been busy lately. Your little rallies have gained quite a lot of support. Too much support for my family's liking. And what? You came all this way to convince me to stop? You have my word. If you stop spreading dissidence, no harm will come to you or your family. Your word is as good as the dirt you lick off of King Olivier's boots. As if I'd ever trust the words of a murderer like you. Flintheart, please. As someone you once called a friend, I'm only going to ask you one time. Friend? Friend? I'll be dead in the ground before I ever call the likes of you a friend. Get out of my house. I don't have time for your nonsense. So I don't know if there's a way to view this. Oh, you can just right-click. Unfortunately, I don't think you'll have much time for anything. Damn it. Damn it. Flintheart, you fool. Why couldn't you have just listened to me? Rudolph, I require your assistance. Yes, sir. By the skilled lord, what did you... You killed him. Alert the town guard. Tell them that you saw his daughter fleeing the scene. I'm sure their neighbors heard them arguing with each other. They'll immediately suspect her. At once, sir. You've been searching for Celeste for a while. How long have you been outside? 2 hours? 3? However long it's been, it's clearly taken a toll on you. Where is she? What am I gonna do now? You hear a faint voice. Could it be? Oh. As you peer behind an old tree, you finally find her. She looks just as tired as you are, probably even more so. Her eyes eyes are puffy and red, but she's doing her best to hide it with a smile. I've been looking all over for you. Oh, sorry. I'm guessing we woke you up? Yeah. Is everything okay? It's nothing, it was just an argument. From the way she reacted, this is clearly not common. So if I had to guess, happy, sad, angry, and then I don't know if this is worried or, surprised, perhaps? Probably more worried, especially with that color. But from the way she reacted, this is clearly not common. You suppose that it's none of your business. You decide not to pry further. Have you been looking for me all this time? I have. Thank you. But I'm okay now. You should head back. What about you? I think I'm gonna stay out a little longer. You know that you should mind your own business, but I'm sure whatever happened between you two, it's nothing you can't talk out. It doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes Miss Timora and I get into fights too. But no matter what happens, we were always able to talk through it. Sorry. I know it's none of my business, but No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're right. Let's go back. What? You arrive back at the McCoy Tavern, but it's now surrounded by several carriages of knights clad in plate armor. Is that the Inquisition? What? The Arcane Inquisition. They're an order of knights that investigate crimes committed using magic. As you say the word crimes, you and Celeste share a glance and come to the same realization. Both of you rush towards the tavern, but Celeste outpaces you by a large margin. What? No! No! She reaches the tavern before you, and before anyone can stop her, she takes a look inside the inn. Whatever she saw makes her cry out in anguish. She drops to the ground in tears. There she is! Celeste McCoy. By the order of the Wyvengard Crown, I'm placing you under arrest. Upon seeing Celeste, one of the knights steps forward and grabs her. Surprisingly, she's able to break free from his grip and tries to push further into the tavern. Noticing the commotion, 3 other knights rush to grab her and begin dragging her away. She kicks and screams against them, desperately trying to break free. Even between the 3 knights, it's taking all of their strength to subdue her. What are you doing to her? What's going on here? Tyrion. Miss Timora approaches you. You breathe a small sigh of relief when you see that she's okay. Miss Timora. I should have known that he was one of yours. Just stay out of our way. Miss Timora, what's going on? Why is the Inquisition here? I'm surprised myself. But from what I understand, Flintheart McCoy has been murdered. Murdered? By the way, if you want to save, it's up here. You follow the Inquisition back to the city where Celeste is being detained. According to Miss Timora, Celeste was the prime suspect in Flintheart's murder. And due to the supposed nature of the crime, her case will be pushed to trial immediately. But many elements of the situation still don't make sense. The Inquisition only investigates crimes committed using magic. So why is Celeste their prime suspect? Could she be a mage? This is ridiculous. She has a right to speak to an attorney. Anyways, you find yourself met with another hurdle. A very frustrating one. Yeah, well, we can't let you see her until she's been processed. Her trial's an hour. How has she not been processed yet? I don't know what to tell you, kid. Wish I could help. You don't need to use the eye to know that that's a complete lie. So, you're really planning on defending her? Do you know if she can even afford a lawyer? I just can't stand here and do nothing. You saw them, didn't you? There's no way she would murder her father like that. I know that look. I was saving this for a special occasion, but... Attorney's runestone's been added to notes. A magical runestone that allows you to take pictures of crime scenes and write notes telepathically. Every attorney has one. It's almost like a badge for them. This is... an attorney's runestone? If you're going to defend her, you're going to need one. You begin to tear up. You've wanted one of these ever since you were a child. It's basically a badge of honor for attorneys. Don't cry, Cuthbert. Sorry. Anyways, keep one thing in mind. If you try to defend her, the Inquisition isn't going to fight you fairly. Our court system only exists to create the illusion of justice. They hate people like us, and they'll do everything in their power to sabotage you. Damn it, you knew that they'd try to get in your way. But you didn't expect them to do it this blatantly. What's with all this noise? You're that knight from the tavern. That's Commander Orm White to you, kid. Orm White, occupation knight. I had a feeling Timora would be sniffing around this case, but I didn't expect her to send a kid to do her dirty work. Commander, he says that he wants to talk to the mage. And she's got a right to an attorney, doesn't she? Well, she hasn't been processed. Commander White looks confused for a moment. The hell kind of bullshit are you trying to pull? Let him through, you idiot. Yes, sir. The knight leads you through the halls of the dungeon. For something built in the capital, it looks extremely old and decrepit. Must not make joke. Yes, a lot of this that encapsulates me pretty well right now. You pick up the negative emotions of the prisoners nearby. It's a heavy and almost crushing feeling. You've always had to avoid crowded places because of how sensitive you are to people's thoughts. You've never felt this much concentrated despair before. Oh, it's you! Celeste is lying down on the cold floor of one of the dungeon cells, but she immediately gets up as soon as she sees you. What are you doing here? Miss Timora told me about what happened to your father. I'm so sorry. I just don't understand. I don't understand any of this. How would someone do this? By the way, you can see she transmutes. And why are they blaming me for it? I'm not sure about the details, but it's clear that there were elements of magic involved in what happened. Since they arrested you based on that evidence, I can only conclude one thing. Celeste, you're a mage, aren't you? There's no sense in hiding it anymore. Yes, I am. Do you have noble blood? Of course not. Why would you say that? Sorry, but the ability to use magic is hereditary. Most mages tend to have some kind of noble blood. I honestly don't like thinking about that. I'm the daughter of Jolene and Flintheart McCoy. That's all I need to know about myself. It would probably be best not to push the matter further. Anyways, you were probably arrested because you're a mage. What? A crime was committed using magic, and you were the only mage around at the time. Is that seriously the only reason? I only know how to cast one spell. The Arcane Inquisition doesn't care about the truth. They only care about closing the case. Celeste, your case is being pushed to trial. You're going to be brought before a judge within the hour. What? No one told me anything. Damn it, they weren't even planning on telling her. If you'll have me, I'd like to be your defense counsel for the trial. Right, I forgot that you were an attorney. Would you really do that for me? After everything I've seen them do, I can't just sit by and do nothing. But they're a part of the kingdom. Do we even have a chance? It's hopeless. Celeste, man, king, or god, I won't let them do anything to you. What? Sorry, it's just something I have a habit of saying. No, don't apologize. I really appreciate you doing this. It's clear this entire situation is bittersweet for her. And because of the Inquisition's delays, you haven't had any time to investigate the crime scene. You were confident before, but you begin to doubt whether or not you can really do this. Everything is happening so fast, it feels unreal. No, you have to do this. This is the exact reason why you became a lawyer. No matter what happens, you'll acquit Celeste. A courtroom. I'm in a real courtroom. So you can see if we go into third-person mode just like Phoenix does. Actually, entering the courtroom took a lot of wind out of your sails. You've never been here as an attorney before. You've only ever acted as Miss Timora's assistant. so want to make a joke about her being multi-hair colored, but I'm going to try to keep this appropriate. But in all seriousness, if you ever hear me pause when it turns to her, that's what's going through my mind. What's worse is it's freaking blue of all colors. The woman at the prosecutor's bench is staring at you. Miss Timora mentioned her before you went to see Celeste. What was her name again? You think it was Arya Steelwind. Occupation prosecutor. You can feel the coldness of her glare burrowing into you. Why is she staring you down? Is she trying to intimidate you? Because it's working. Court is now in session for the trial of Celeste McCoy. He's 80 years old, jeez. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Oh, the defense is also ready, Your Honor. He doesn't necessarily sound very ready. Regardless, let's begin the proceedings. Prosecutor Steelwind, please list the charges. The defendant is Celeste McCoy, mercenary for hire, and a registered mage. Wait, did she just say mercenary? Yeah, I had to take up a job after my family's tavern was shut down. Oh, right. That's not exactly the first occupation you choose. She's charged with second-degree murder and negligent misuse of the arcane arts. I see. So there was magic involved. Evocation, I think that's summoning, but I'm not entirely sure. Yes, the crime occurred within the McCoy Tavern, a local inn that shut down years ago. The locals report hearing a loud commotion coming from within the building. Hours later, a carriage driver that was nearby checked the disturbance. It was then that he found the victim, the defendant's sword, still impaling his dead body. The Inquisition has provided an autopsy report and a record of the sword. Autopsy report Flintheart McCoy has been added to notes. So, died after being stabbed from behind with a magical blade. Fatal wound shows heavy traces of transmutation magic. And Celeste's sword. The alleged murder weapon. It's an ornately designed sword, but it has no magical properties. What was the defendant's relationship with the victim? I see that they share the same last name. The defendant is the victim's daughter, but not by blood. She was adopted into the family when she was an infant. Her birth parents are currently unknown. I see. What an unfortunate turn of events. Yeah, that should be an unfortunate turn. They have a typo in that press bubble. To begin, the prosecution would like to call Commander Orm White to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Name's Orm White. I'm commander of the Arcane Inquisition. Orm, could you please testify about the details of the Inquisition's investigation? Yeah. Witness testimony. We got a call late at night. Someone discovered a dead body inside the McCoy Tavern. When we arrived on the scene, we found Flintheart McCoy dead on the floor. The defendant's sword was still inside of him. We have several witnesses who heard the victim and defendant in a loud argument before the body was discovered. Their argument must have turned ugly because the defendant killed the victim using her magic sword. Isn't that really incriminating? One of her possessions is the murder weapon. Mr. Cuthbert, you may begin your cross-examination. You open your mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. You can't think of anything to say. Everything is blank. Mr. Cuthbert. Hey, what are you doing? This is the part where you say something, right? I'm sorry, I don't... Your anxiety is just getting worse, and your breaths are becoming more and more desperate. Are you hyperventilating? What a disappointment. I was hoping to fight against the infamous Ruby Timora today, but it's clear you can't even hold a candle to her. Your Honor, it's clear that the defense has nothing to say against the prosecution's overwhelming evidence. Yep, this case is pretty open and shut. No, wait. This isn't what's supposed to happen. I'm sorry, Tyrion. I couldn't acquit Frey. She was found guilty. What? But that means... Are they going to execute her? No, not again. Are you seriously going to let that happen again? Tyrion! Celeste grabs your shoulders and shakes you out of your panic. You need to calm down. Her gaze is calm and focused despite the gravity of the situation, but she looks stern, not angry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to... Stop. Just listen to me. You know what to do, right? Uh, just do it the same way you play chess. What? I don't know. You were just so calm and focused when we were playing before. And it looks like there was a extra comma there as a typo. No matter how close I got to beating you, you always knew how to stay calm and win. So just channel that feeling and look at the pieces? That doesn't make any sense, and yet... You take a moment to focus and let everything else disappear from the world. Every statement that he made, every word that came out of his mouth, each of those is a possible weakness that you can attack. Every bleak moment can be turned around. You just need to consider every angle. My apologies for the delay, Your Honor. The defense is ready to begin cross-examining the witness. Very well. There we go. Thank God that worked. Carefully examine every statement he made and find something that contradicts the evidence in your notes. Once you do that, present the contradicting evidence and prove that his testimony is false. So they even have the press thing here. You are cross-examining a witness. Carefully examine each statement they made and find the statement that contradicts a clue, a spell, or a profile in your notes. Once you identify the false statement, click the present button and present the contradicting evidence to move forward. In all seriousness, I don't know why this isn't on a console, because you can scroll left and right here with these. You have the shoulder buttons for this, just like with Phoenix Wright. The one, I don't remember if for Phoenix Wright if you were able to scroll back or if you had to go all the way forward and then it scrolled that way. It's been so long since I last played it, I don't remember all the details. And then I haven't played some of the newer ones because I try to get some of those. My Phoenix Wright collection is physical, I'll put it that way. We got a call late at night. Someone discovered a dead body inside the McCoy Tavern, so you can press for more details. At what time exactly did you get this call, and who discovered the body? The call came in at 1:25 a.m. As for the witness who discovered it, he wanted to remain incognito. Incognito, shouldn't that be anonymous? Like, incognito would mean in disguise. Yeah, that would be a typo. It's not unusual for a witness to stay anonymous, it's well within their right. But this would be a lot easier if you could question the witness directly. What happened when you arrived, Commander? When we arrived on the scene, we found Flintheart McCoy dead on the floor. The defendant's sword was still inside him. How did you know that sword was my client's? Her sword is made out of some kind of special alloy. I think it was forged out of country or something. It'd be hard to mistake something like that. We also have several eyewitnesses who verified that the sword belonged to the defendant. She made no effort to hide it from the public. Quite the contrary, she was quite proud to show it off. But even if the sword belongs to my client, that doesn't necessarily mean that she was the one who stabbed him. Yeah, well... We have several witnesses who heard the victim and defendant in a loud argument before the body was discovered. How did they know it was my client and the victim that were arguing? You were there, weren't you? You had to have heard them too. Every witness we talked to knew it was them. Well... Your Honor, it's clear that the defense is playing devil's advocate. Even he should have recognized their voices. Well, they've got you there. Their argument must have turned ugly because the defendant killed the victim using her magic sword. That's conjecture. Weren't there plenty of people around who could have committed the crime? That tavern has been closed for years. The defendant, the victim, and Ruby Timora were the only ones there before the body was discovered. Plus, the murder weapon definitely belonged to her. Well, it's a given that Miss Timora didn't do this, then it'll be hard to prove that someone else was at the crime scene. But you can't help but feel that there's something off about what he just said. You shouldn't have panicked so much before. His testimony is straightforward, but that will actually make this easier. Assuming that Miss McCoy is innocent, there has to be a flaw in his logic. You just need to compare every statement to each piece of evidence in your notes. Once you find a contradiction, present that piece of evidence to the contradicting statement. So... if you need to see something, click here. It's not until you hit present that it will go forward. So if you notice, using her magic sword, but the sword itself has no magical properties.
Objection!
Commander White, you testified that the victim was killed using the defendant's magical sword. Am I correct? Yeah, it's pretty obvious when you look at the crime scene. I think I'd actually have to disagree with you on that. The defendant's sword couldn't have possibly been the murder weapon. What are you talking about, kid? The sword was inside his body. Of course that's what killed him. That may be the case, but take a look at the autopsy report. It states that the fatal wound had heavy traces of magic. So how would a non-magical sword leave traces of magic on the body? What? To leave a trace like that, the wound would have had to have been created with something magical. My client's sword may look fancy and expensive, but it's entirely mundane. That doesn't make a lick of sense. If the sword didn't kill him, then why was it in the body? Yes, I find that quite strange as well. Well, there's only one reasonable explanation, Your Honor. The wound was created magically, and someone shoved the sword into the wound afterward. The hell are you talking about? The defendant is a damn mage. She could have easily killed the victim using magic. That may be, Commander, but why would she kill the victim using her magic and then stab him with her sword? She would just be incriminating herself. No. If anything, this series of events proves one thing. Someone used magic to kill the victim, and then they pushed my client's sword into the wound to frame her.
Objection!
Don't get ahead of yourself. What? Your Honor, the defense is trying to spin the facts in his favor. He claims that a third party committed the crime and used the sword to frame the defendant. But wouldn't the simpler explanation be this? Magic was being channeled through the sword at the time of death. That is what left the magical trace on the body. Commander, please tell the defense how the murder was committed using magic. What? Alright. I think I see where you're going with this. Like, we don't have any music. There we go. It's true that the sword itself isn't magical, but magic can still be channeled through it. That defendant over there, her spell compendium has a spell called Mage Blade. She must have used it on her sword before stabbing the victim. That spell is the reason why there were traces of transmutation magic on the wound. So, her spell compendium contains a spell called Mage Blade. A spell compendium is a magical device that lists every spell a mage can cast. Luckily, Celeste's compendium only contains one spell. That means she can only cast that one spell. Celeste, do you have your spell compendium with you? No, I left it at the tavern after... well, you know. If you can't look at the description for Mage Blade, you'll have to approach this another way. The commander's testimony was a lot vaguer this time. If you can press his statements, you might be able to find new information that you can use against him. So you saw me doing this a moment ago, nothing new. It's true that the sword itself isn't magical, but magic can still be channeled through it. Are you saying that my client used a spell channeled it through her sword? There are a vast number of spells that operate like that. Spells from the School of Transmutation are almost always channeled through an object. That defendant over there, her spell compendium has a spell called Mage Blade. Mage Blade. It's a transmutation spell that sharpens my sword. I usually use it when I need to cut through an enemy's plate armor. You didn't realize that she'd led such a lethal lifestyle. But anyways, wouldn't it be excessive for the defendant to use a spell like that on the victim? He wasn't wearing any kind of armor at the time of death. The victim and the defendant were in an intense argument. Perhaps she used the spell in a fit of rage. It was a crime of passion, after all. That theory is a little far-fetched, but you'll need hard evidence if you want to disprove it. She must have used it on her sword before stabbing the victim. But why would she go to the trouble of doing that? Her sword alone would have been enough to commit the murder. Mages are always looking for an excuse to throw their power around. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Isn't that just your own personal bias, Commander? We don't need to understand why the defendant did what she did. The fact of the matter is that magic was present at the crime. Do you have any evidence of the contrary? You don't, yet. That spells the reason why there were traces of transmutation magic on the wound. If she used a spell like that, wouldn't that have created traces of magic on the ground? How so? Well, let's say we followed the prosecution's theory. That would mean that the victim fell to the ground with the sword still inside him. At this point, Mage Blade would still be active, right? It would definitely leave a magical trace on the ground after making physical contact with it. We're already way ahead of you. We had our people scan the crime scene, and we found traces of transmutation magic right under the body, just like you said. Oh. If you still don't believe me, I have a picture of the crime scene right here. Oh? Why was this picture not brought to my attention? There was no need. This entire case is open and shut. Picture Flintheart McCoy after he was murdered. You've seen pictures of the dead before, but it feels different now that the body is of someone you knew. Looks like there are traces of magic on the ground. But this shape is a little weird, isn't it? What was that just now? You can see right in this photo, she killed him with a stab from the front. Right, this photo does show that he was stabbed from the front. But why do you feel like there's something wrong with this picture? This would be a lot easier if you knew the parameters of Mage Blade. But perhaps you can get him to add statements or evidence to his testimony. The only thing that you can do now is press his statements. Yeah, with how close they copied Phoenix Wright here, it's a little surprising that they got away with it. So anyway, the autopsy report says stabbed from behind.
Objection!
I'm sorry, Commander White, but it seems that you've presented another glaring contradiction. Oh yeah? And what's that? You said that my client stabbed the victim from the front. Am I correct? Yeah, you can see it plain in that picture. So where's your contradiction? That's the thing, Commander. Your picture clearly shows that the victim was stabbed from the front, but the autopsy report says that he died from a stab from behind. What?
Objection!
Orm, you were supposed to release everything that you had. Why wasn't this photo given to me? There was no need. There's no way it could have been anyone other than that damn mage. Murmurs ran across the gallery. It didn't matter how corrupt the justice system was. They wouldn't be able to cover up such blatant incompetence. You have them right where you want them. I'm surprised he doesn't have a magic hammer or something, you know? That's heartbreaking. Order. Order in the court. Mr. Cuthbert, what is the meaning of this? I'll tell you what the meaning behind this is, Your Honor. As the autopsy report states, the victim died from a stab wound originating from his back. But this photo clearly shows that the sword entered from his front. And this can only mean one thing. The sword was inserted into the wound after the fatal wound had already been created. That's crazy. Do you honestly expect us to believe that? Then please enlighten me, Commander White. How else would the sword be facing the opposite way? Do you think my client stabbed the victim with the hilt of her sword? I didn't think so. What really happened is clear. The real murderer stuck the sword through the victim's wound to implicate my client. But they made a careless mistake and stuck the sword through the opposite side.
Objection!
It appears that I underestimated you, Mr. Cuthbert. But you've still gotten ahead of yourself. How so? Really, Miss Steelwind, I believe that Mr. Cuthbert has adequately cast doubt on your case. Oh, did he now? Then let me ask you one question, Mr. Cuthbert. If your client didn't kill Flintheart McCoy, then who did? That's your job. How should I know? If I'm not mistaken, it's the Commander's job to figure that out. Oh, I'm well aware of the Commander's incompetence. But one fact still stands. There was magic detected on the wound and the sword. Would you like for me to tell you how many mages live in that small town? You don't like where she's going with this. Just one. There's only one registered mage in that entire town. And that mage is your client. What? The defendant was also established to have been with the victim hours before his death. She was the last known person with him, and she was the only mage there. In addition to that, I have several witnesses who heard them arguing. how she murdered the victim is simply an unanswered question. I see, that certainly does change matters. I can't say that the prosecution's evidence is irrefutable, but there is still evidence that casts guilt upon the defendant. Damn it, you almost had them. There are far too many unanswered questions for me to pass a verdict. We will give law enforcement time to clear these unknowns. I suggest that they conduct their investigation more thoroughly this time. We will resume the trial tomorrow morning. Court is adjourned. Hello, Cuthbert. As you walk out of the courtroom with Celeste, you are greeted by Miss Timora. Miss Timora, you're here? You recall how you froze up during the first cross-examination. You feel a little ashamed that your mentor saw all of that. Well, at the end of the day, you were able to pull it together. And once you did that, you performed adequately. On that note, I wanted to give you this. Celeste's spell compendium has been added to the notes. The Mage Blade spell has been added. Snow's duration 1 minute, concentration yes. For the duration of the spell, the edges of the object, usually blade, become unnaturally sharp, making it more effective at slashing through rough, tough material. While under the effects of the spell, the object emits a yellow radiant glow. Target must also be no longer than a 5-foot cube. Is that supposed to be 5 cubic feet, or? That I'm not sure about. But the important thing to note here is that it's effective for slashing when he was stabbed. My spell compendium. I swiped it from the dying area before the Inquisition arrived. I thought it'd be best for you to have it. So this is your spell compendium. And it only has one spell. Mage Blade. This means that the prosecution has to prove that Celeste used that specific spell. It will restrict how they approach this case, which gives you an edge over them. But that prosecutor is really something else. You mean Prosecutor Steelwind? You can still remember her ripping glare. It gives you chills just thinking about it. You wouldn't even know it, but this was also her first trial. Really? I thought that her inexperience would make for a good first opponent. But that girl, she is a natural in the courtroom. It makes me wonder why a Steelwind would choose to become an attorney in the first place. What do you mean? The Steelwinds are a powerful noble house. Of the noble families, they are one of the few who answer directly to the king. Most members of their house take high-ranking positions in the kingdom's military. So it's a bit strange that she chose to become a prosecutor despite that. Steelwind. I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. In any case, it's best that you focus on the trial. You have about a day until court resumes. Right. Now that I have time, I'd like to ask you some questions, Celeste. Namely about that argument you had with your father. Oh. You see the bailiff staring daggers at Celeste. Looks like they're waiting to take her back to her cell. Whatever questions you have for her will have to wait. I should probably go. Celeste walks away while avoiding eye contact with you. Bringing up her argument with Flintheart may have struck a nerve. I'll also use this opportunity to investigate the crime scene. I wouldn't be surprised if the Inquisition missed something. You utterly embarrassed them today. Don't expect them to make the same mistake twice. Right. There's still a lot of things we don't know about. As much as I hate to admit it, your skills of deduction far surpass mine. If anyone can figure out what really happened that night, it's you. You arrive back at the McCoy Tavern. Luckily for you, the Inquisition set up a teleportation circle for you to use. With that circle, you can magically teleport between the capital and the crime scene instantaneously. It's definitely miles better than having to travel by carriage. Oh, it's you. What are you doing here? Commander White takes notice of you as you enter the tavern. It looks like he's working with a team of knights to investigate the crime scene. I'm the defense attorney in this case. I have just as much right to investigate this crime scene as you do. Yeah, whatever. Just remember, I got my eye on you, kid. Okay, so they actually give you objects here instead of you having to click on stuff like you had to do in Phoenix Wright. The Inquisition lit some candles, but there's a magical lamp right there. Wonder why they're not using those instead. Okay, so that's actually the same one. It's kind of handy they give you check marks. There's a modern-looking lamp mounted on the wall. It's a lamp powered by artificery. I didn't expect to find something this sophisticated in a town like this. Bah, artificery is just another form of magic. Actually, artificery draws from surrounding ley lines, too. I didn't ask for a science lesson, kid. Anyways, look where artificery got these folks. The arcane power cell broke, and they haven't had any power for weeks. Yep, nothing can beat good old oil and flame. Broken power cell. Okay, so most of those were notes about the candles. It's a painting of a man in a suit. There's some text on it. Adam Everley, politician of the Pedantic. I've heard of this guy. He's some kind of politician from one of the nations west of here. I heard he's pretty much a shoo-in to win whatever election they have going there. An election? Was Flintheart studying democracies for his little revolution? It's a painting of a mage, and there's some text on it. Somala Degalion, a legendary practitioner of the arcane arts. He mysteriously disappeared one day, so I wonder if these are the Kickstarter backers. It's rumored that he was developing a formula for a new transmutation spell. However, he was reckless in casting the spell, and Degalion quickly lost control of its magic. His body was never found. Many speculate that he didn't actually die during the accident, but if that's true, where did he end up? Sounds like a cautionary tale against using magic. That might explain why Flintheart keeps it in his tavern. And it's time to address the elephant in the room. Let's start with this one. There's a broken bottle on the floor. It's shattered close to the chalk outline of the body. The label has the words lotus juice on it. Never heard of that brand before. Must be foreign. So, we get that added to the notes. There's a chalk outline of a person on the ground of the tavern. This is probably where Flintheart died. The outline matches the picture that the Inquisition took. Nothing seems out of place here. Looks like he's spelling out the letter N, but it's backwards. Just saying. So I'll make sure there's nothing in the periphery. Okay, so I hit the escape button hoping that I could just do it that way, but I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about the case. As if I'd help the likes of you. I saw who your boss is, and I know what you're up to. That witch probably sent you here to con me. What? I'm just looking for some information. A likely story. He was cooperative before when he let you see Celeste. Why is he being so stubborn now? Is he angry that you embarrassed him in court today? In any case, you won't get anywhere at this rate. If you want his help, you'll need to persuade him through an argument. It helps to prepare before starting an argument with someone. Talk to Orm or present items to him to build a psychological profile for him. If you successfully fill the profile gauge, you'll receive more information during any arguments against him. The autopsy report seems to be pretty detailed in some aspects and vague in others. Why is that? Not sure about the details, but the autopsy is performed by a mage who studies divination. Their magic gives us details about how someone dies, but there's always a few blind spots. Blind spots like what? Well, for one thing, if someone mucks around with the body after death, the report becomes muddled. Divination magic can tell what happened to a body, but not in what order and at what times. But someone definitely stabbed Flintheart's body with Celeste's sword. If what he's saying is true, it'll be that much harder to figure out what kind of weapon originally killed him. That mage's sword really is strange. It's almost a shame that we had to confiscate it. Is it really that abnormal? It's definitely not like any kind of sword I've seen. Wonder if it was forged in the Eastern Kingdoms. What do you think about this? I don't know what you're expecting me to say. Not much to say about that. Be best to try something else. I've never seen a real spell compendium before. I'm still not exactly sure how they work. Well, spell compendiums are magical devices that display exactly which spells a mage can cast. You can probably guess, but the Inquisition uses these things all the time. Right, having that information is definitely a blessing for the defense and the prosecution. This place has been without power for about a week. I wonder if there's any information I can infer from that. They've been using candles to keep the place lit. This is exactly why you can't rely on magic. Wonder what lotus juice is. It's definitely not any drink I've heard of. Must be some kind of imported brand. So what does the Arcane Inquisition do exactly? You trying to pick a fight with me? No, I'm just genuinely curious. Well, I'm sure you already know, but us Inquisitors investigate crimes that involve magic. Do crimes like this happen often? Nah, maybe once in a blue moon. Makes sense, most mages are in the nobility after all. Even if they're untouchable, they don't make a habit of getting into trouble with the law. You must have an easy job then. You got that right. The only reason we exist is to clean up the nobility's messes. I need to try to do my voice differently for those. He doesn't seem that happy about that. Commander White, you seem to speak negatively about my client's magic. Do you have a personal grudge against mages? You're damn right I do. Wow, he didn't even try to deny it. And if you had any sense, you would too. All a mage has to do is wave their hands and say some magic nonsense. Then you suddenly have a dead body on the ground. And don't get me started on mage blight. If some noble uses their magic too much, they end up snapping and going on a rampage. I don't know if this is going too far. But why join the Inquisition if you hate mages so much? Considering the fact that, that my job is to sweep the nobility's crimes under the rug? Sorry, I didn't mean to insinuate. Nope, you have the right of it. Anytime a noble is involved in a case, I'm ordered to look the other way. You don't seem very happy to do that. Why would you stay in this line of work? Because every once in a while I'm allowed to put a criminal mage behind bars. We can't go after the nobles, but any other mage is fair game. Or at least they were before your boss showed up. Your boss, does he have something against Miss Timora? I have to ask, did something happen between you and Miss Timora? Miss Timora? What are you, her lackey or something? No, actually, she's my guardian. Oh, I didn't know she even had... Look, kid, I don't know what the deal is between you two, but no good will ever come from associating with her. This is about the rumors, isn't it? Throughout the years, there have been several insidious rumors surrounding Miss Timora. She's been accused of forgery, blackmail, and all manner of illegal activities. It's clearly misinformation spread by the nobility to discredit her. She's always been fine with it, but you can't help but get angry on her behalf. It's more than just rumors, I've seen it for myself. That woman is evil, kid. She defends mages who don't have the protection of the nobility. She's not evil, she's a hero. Yeah, whatever. Profile is complete. So, let's just do this one and see what it says. Commander White seems unusually hostile towards you, and you have a feeling it's not just because you embarrassed him in court today. If you can clear up this misunderstanding, you might be able to convince him to help you. Alright, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Do you have a problem with me, Commander White? You should know exactly what my problem is with you. I saw who you work for. Do I have to spell it out for you? Ruby Timora is a crooked lawyer. Or does your boss not tell you what she gets up to? So, elocutions. Arguments have always fought using hard evidence. Sometimes you need to elocute to convince your opponent their claim is wrong. When prompted for the elocution, choose one from the 3 possible responses. The correct response we can gain from reading the psychological profile. So if we were to peek in this, stubborn in his ways, seems to have a grudge against Ruby Timora and will react negatively if you try to defend her. He will respect you if you defend yourself against personal attacks. So yeah, there's a case we made for deflecting and rationalizing. Let's try rationalizing. It doesn't matter how you feel about me or Miss Timora. What matters is that my client deserves a fair trial with fair representation. All I'm trying to do is give that to her. I've seen that woman do all kinds of shady shit in the cases I've worked. Forgery, bribery, blackmail, you name it. You're just another crook. Well, but you're just the same, a successor for the Devil of Defense attorneys. So, here we need to defend to push back against him as the profile indicates. I'm not Ruby Timora. It doesn't matter if the rumors are true or not. Regardless of what you've seen her do, I'm going to run an honest case. Look, kid, I'd like nothing more than to believe you, but after everything I've seen her do, I know better. I have no reason to trust you. Anyone taught by that woman can't be anything more than a crook. And at this point, we may as well just do the hat trick, since we'll try the deflect. Right now, I'm just a defense attorney that's asking you for information. Nothing that I've done has given you any reason to suspect me. You just want some info, right? Yes, that's all I'm asking for. Alright, I'll answer your questions. Just don't make me regret this. You successfully persuaded Orem White. Murder weapon. This probably goes without saying, but I don't believe that the sword is the murder weapon. Right, I guess you have to prove that someone else put the sword there. Did the Inquisition find anything suspicious on the scene? If you're asking if we found another bloody weapon lying around, we definitely did not. That would be a little too convenient, wouldn't it? But let's say that the girl really is being framed. If there was another murder weapon, the killer probably walked out with it. Do you think that they could have hidden it somewhere in the tavern? Doubt it. After the trial, Steelwind turned the place upside down and scanned it with her magic. If someone did hide a murder weapon here, they hid it well. Or they hid it in plain sight. I can't believe you made such an obvious mistake during your investigation. Oh, shut it with that. I already got an earful from Steelwind about that mess. Well, you don't have to worry about me mucking things up. Steelwind's basically taken over the entire investigation. Wait, does she have the authority to do that? Normally she wouldn't, but I know better than to go against orders from a noble. Right. There's definitely a strange power dynamic between them. But honestly, that girl sweats the details too much. She even had my men draw up a scaled map of the crime scene. Wait, really? Do you have a copy? Sure, knock yourself out. Don't know how much good it'll do you. Crime scene has been added to the notes. I heard that this was Prosecutor Steelwind's first trial. She must be pretty talented if that's true. A pain in my ass is what she is. That damn noble comes in here telling me how to do my job. I honestly have no idea what she's even doing in this line of work. I heard that she's from a renowned noble house. She must be a pretty powerful mage. Powerful is an understatement. The Steelwinds who came before her could turn this entire town into a glass crater. What? There's no way that's true, right? You think you found everything that you can here. But what does it all mean? There's no murder weapon to be found. And there's no obvious evidence of another person at the scene. Hey, you okay? You got quiet all of a sudden. Alright, just focus. Close your eyes and let everything else disappear from the world. Hey, you listening? So there's no clear evidence pointing to another killer. There is, however, evidence pointing to how Flintheart moved before his death. What? What can we tell about how Flintheart died? There's no blood trail leading to or from the body. What does this imply about the location of Flintheart's death? Flintheart died where he was attacked. He didn't move from his position at all. Yeah, I guess you're right. There's also the autopsy report which says that he died from a stab from behind. He was probably caught off guard and was too incapacitated to move anywhere else. This means that the attack happened at the exact position he fell over. So, crime scene map's been updated. There's also this shattered bottle of lotus juice. I doubt it means anything, but the shattered bottle is right next to the body. Nope. There we go. Yep. Flintheart dropped the bottle when he was attacked. From that, we can infer that he was holding it the moment before he was attacked. So, that piece of evidence has been updated? What's so strange about one bottle, though? It may seem like an insignificant detail, but That detail could help me infer other elements of what happened during the murder. Right. There's also the fact that the artificery lights were out. Were these candles here when you arrived at the crime scene, Orm? No. We had to light some so we could see the crime scene properly. We thought it was weird too. The girl and her father must have had their argument in pitch-black darkness. So they didn't light any candles to make up for the broken lights. Had no lighting. So there's a few different ways you can interpret this. So we'll say during the murder. The crime scene had no lighting during the murder. The argument that Celeste had with Flintheart must have been spontaneous. They weren't planning to have a conversation in this room. In this darkness, Flintheart wouldn't have a lot of visibility. If he was stabbed from behind, he probably didn't see it coming. He was clearly surprised and was probably in too much shock to run away. So one other detail they haven't really approached is the height difference between the two of them, Flintheart and Celeste. Because it's looking like the murderer stabbed the sword down, but we'll see. And they might just address that later. Also, the bottle may seem insignificant, but he was holding it when he was attacked. Maybe he was pouring a drink for himself, or maybe it was for a visitor. Either way, the assailant must have been unseen by Flintheart. Kid? Or the assailant attacked him from his blind spot while his back was turned. And what's in our blind spot while our back is turned right now? Why would his back be turned, though? Was he distracted by something? Kid! What? What was that all about? Sorry. Sometimes I just get lost in my own thoughts. Yeah, well, cut it out. You're freaking me out. Right. Anyways, you think you found everything you can here. You should move somewhere else. I don't know if this is to move it forward or if that's where you'll find Timora, but let's head up the barracks. You return to the dungeon to speak with Celeste, but when you check the cell that she was being kept in, you see that it's empty. The Inquisition must be questioning her. I should come back later. Lit torches are hanging on the wall of the cell. Seems a bit irresponsible to put a potentially harmful item in here with the prisoners. But perhaps the Inquisition doesn't care about that. The cell has a barred window. Even if prisoners somehow broke through the bars, there's a 3-story drop to freedom. There's only one locked door that leads into the cell, and it seems to be locked by some kind of magical mechanism. Cuthbert, you're back already. Sorry, I guess I'm just a little lost about where to go next. Well, I suppose I can give you some guidance. This time. So, sometimes it helps to speak with someone about the investigation. One character will always be available to assist. So you can speak with them about the investigation and ask them where to go next. Right now you have Ruby, Timora, but who knows, maybe someone else will be with you in the future, it's like Celeste. This door leads to the courtroom. The fates of countless people have been decided beyond these doors. It's a painting of a knight. There's some text under it. Sir Diogo, former commander of the Arcane Inquisition. Well beloved by both the people and his fellow knights. After many years of service, Commander Diogo retired with honors. With this plaque, we thank and honor him for his dedication and commitment to the Kingdom of Wyvengard. It's a painting of a knight. There's some text under it. General David Serrano, former king, chief of the King's Guard. A beloved ally of House Steelwind who served during the Great Luminite War. The annals of history have countless tales of his courage, wit, and heroism. With this plaque, we thank and honor him for coming to the defense of our kingdom in our greatest time of need. It's a bench outside the courtroom. I used to sit here as a child when Miss Timora was defending her clients. And there you have it. I found a lot of clues, but they don't really tell me what happened. Even so, knowing the state of a crime scene is instrumental to cross-examining witnesses. Right, you'll probably want to make a habit of remembering what you've learned about the crime scene. Where should I go next, Miss Timora? The Inquisition should be done questioning Celeste by now. You'll want to talk to her and find out why she was arguing with Flintheart. Don't waste my time, Cuthbert. Sorry. So we might not be able to present anything to her by just throwing random stuff to see what happens. Oh, you can go upstairs. If people keep seeing you here, they're going to start asking questions. Leave the investigation to me. All you have to do is stay quiet until the trial is over. While heading upstairs, you spot the prosecutor having a conversation with someone. They seem to be in some kind of argument. Enough. I will do as I see fit. You may be a Steelwind, but this is my land. Oh, sorry. Oh, you're that defense attorney from the trial. I am. I'm sorry, but who... Ah, how rude of me. My name is Lord Garrick Pierce, the ruling noble of this land. As the ruling noble, I suppose I should thank you for playing your role in the current trial. Notice his art. As misguided as it may be, I suppose that you also think my client is guilty. It does not matter what I think. This entire scandal has done nothing but rile up the common folk. Magic is a gift for the nobility and the nobility alone. It is a symbol of the aristocracy and our divine right to rule. And now that bastard child has tainted that symbol in the public eye. All of that has nothing to do with her. She's just an innocent woman who got wrapped up in all of this. Even if she is innocent, the charges have been laid and made public. Someone must take the fall, lest the public accuse the justice system of corruption. So you're saying that she should be found guilty even if she's innocent. What do you suppose will happen if she's acquitted? All the public will see is a mage going free despite a myriad of evidence. That alone would be enough to cause public outrage. Tensions between the aristocracy and the common folk are high enough as is. What is one insignificant girl when compared to the stability of our great kingdom? That's enough. Stop antagonizing him, Pierce. I can't refute what he said, but I don't agree with it. What? The system should be based on truth and justice, not on public opinion. Then why are you working against my client? Do you honestly think she's the kind of person that would kill her father? It doesn't matter what kind of person she appears to be. The evidence clearly points to her as the only possible killer. But you should fight according to your own ideals, just as I will fight for mine. It's hard to get a read on that woman. Several doors lead to guest rooms. Aside from the rooms that you and Miss Timora use, they don't look like they've been open for quite some time. There are some candles lining up the hallway. They look like they used to be a part of the old architecture. So yeah, we only have one thing left. There's a door at the end of the hallway. It looks like it's seen some use recently. You try to open the door, but it seems to be locked. Perhaps someone might have a key to open it. So you can go downstairs. I'll pop down here and ask if he has a key by any chance. Nope. Well, we tried. Let's ask her where he keeps the key. You return to the cell that Celeste's being kept in. The ambient despair in the air fills your mind like a horrendous stench. You do your best to ignore the emotions of the other prisoners, but you haven't had much practice blocking out to this many people. As you arrive, you see Celeste huddled down in a corner. As soon as she sees you, her dour mood seems to lift, if only for a moment. Hi, Mr. Cuthbert. There's no need to address me so formally, just call me Tyrion. Okay. Anyways, I came here to ask you some questions about the case. Right. I'm sorry for freezing up like that. I almost lost us the trial. No, there's no need to apologize. You did great. But it was only thanks to her. If she hadn't calmed you down, who knows what would have happened. But I still don't understand, though. Why were there traces of magic on my dad's body? Right, those traces of magic were on the sword and the body. Magical traces are particles of magical residue that are left behind when a mage casts a spell. They only linger for around 48 hours. That gives you a rough timeline of when and where a spell was cast. Did you cast Mage Blade on your sword that day? I did. I cast it when I trained her in the morning. That explains why there was a trace on the sword, at least. Did the trace on my sword leave the magical trace on my dad's body? No. Magical traces can't be moved around physically. For a spell to leave a trace, it has to be active when physical contact is made. Really? What does that mean, then? Whatever killed your father had a transmutation spell active on it at the time. The magical trace on your sword was just an unlucky coincidence. I can't believe this. Could you tell me more about your father? Sorry, I know this must be difficult after everything that's happened. No, it's okay. If it helps you, I'll try my best to answer your questions. Were you two close? We were. I'm sure you know this by now, but I was adopted by him and my mom. But even though I didn't have their blood, they treated me as if I did. He loved me with all his heart until... Until what? Does this have something to do with the argument that they had? Oops. I'm sorry to say this, but I could hear your argument from my room that night. Could you tell me about what happened? For as long as I can remember, my dad has hated mages. I'm not sure why, but if you even mentioned magic around him, he'd fly into a rage. So I hid my magic from my family. But why even learn magic in the first place? If you really wanted to, you could have gone your whole life without using it. Ever since our tavern closed, my family's been in a lot of debt. I decided to become a mercenary and use magic to enhance my ability to fight. Most mages are in the nobility, so people will pay a lot for a sellsword who can use magic. So that's why she's a mercenary. So her occupation's updated? But I know now, learning magic was the biggest mistake I've ever made. On that night, my dad found my spell compendium. When he confronted me about it, I finally came clean to him. That's when he flew into another one of his rages. He shouted at me. He told me that I'd betrayed him and his family. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how that must have felt. I deserved every bit of it. I knew how much he hated magic, but I learned to use it anyways. He showed me so much love and I just threw it all away. Don't say that. I'm sure he still loved you. No, I could see it in his eyes. He hated me. And he died hated me. You feel a sharp pain in your chest as you see that thought. So, there's a locked room in the tavern. It's at the very end of the hallway upstairs. The Inquisition probably searched it already, but I just wanted to investigate it to make sure. A locked room at the end of the hallway? I think that's my room. Do you know how I could get in there? It's the only room in the tavern that I haven't investigated. You feel a suspicious gaze from Celeste. What's that look for? I'm your lawyer. I'm not gonna do anything weird. Sorry, you're right. Here, you can use this key to get inside. So she actually had the key on her still. She might be able to tell you more about the juice, if nothing else. I didn't expect to find artificery in a village like yours. Yeah, I bought it for my family to make their lives easier. But I think it just made things more complicated. Yeah, without an arcane power cell, those lights aren't very useful. Okay, so her job's actually a different note entirely. This is a pretty strange sword. I've never seen anything like it. Do you like it? It's a souvenir I got while I was traveling the Eastern Kingdoms. Wait, you've been to the Eastern Kingdoms? I thought Wyvengard had a strict policy preventing people from crossing the border. Well, I didn't exactly enter legally. You quickly glance at the guard at the cell. He doesn't seem to be listening. Please don't make a habit of telling people that. You're in enough trouble as it is. Yeah. Nope. This is what I'm looking for. Mage Blade. It's a spell that magically sharpens my sword so that I can cut through plate armor. When would you even need to use a spell like that? Well, it's not just for plate armor. I can cut through all kinds of things with it. Trees, boulders, ballista, fortified gates, cuts through most of those things like butter. You start to wonder what kind of life she led before this case.